Hello,
Hola.
everyone. Buenas noches, good night. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Screen. Let's get real, for real.
For real, for real.
For real, for real, for real. Intimate conversations with your favorite artists. So you get to know a little bit about the artist, and we believe in making the artist accessible to community. So that's what these artist talk sessions are all about. And today we have the pleasure of welcoming Josie del Castillo. We're really excited. Another one of the artists who's emerging and who's just a strong, badass mujer whose work is amazing. So we're really excited about welcoming Josie today. Hello, everyone. So we're just going to give it a couple of minutes for Josie to log in. But again, we believe in making artists accessible to community. You know, it's one thing to see artists' work online or exhibits. And it's another thing to actually hear them talk about the intentions behind the work and what the work is about. So we're really excited that we're able to collaborate with artists to make sure that we center them and make them accessible to all of you.
And then you all get to hear their words from the artists themselves. I think, like you're saying, it's hard to have access to artists, and so especially when they're artists of color and they're doing big things, and it's great to just kind of hear their stories and any advice or anything that they would want to like throw at y'all.
Yes. So if you have questions for Josie about her journey as an artist or about her work or any specific pieces, feel free to ask when she's on. And then also know that Josie is part of our exhibit, Rooted, Black and Brown Bodies with Plants. And the opening reception to that is this Friday. And you can find the link in our bio if you wanted to register for the open reception. And it looks like Josie is logging on. So we're just going to give her a minute to do that. And we will be excited to share. Here she is. Yes. Hi, Josie. Hola, hola. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today and with our collective community. Like we were sharing with folks, it's an honor because as a portrait artist, I super am inspired by your work. And you're just a badass, strong artista, mujer. So we're really excited. And for folks who may be new to your work, we're going to go ahead and take just a minute to read your bio.
Here we go. Okay, Josie del Castillo is a Brownsville artist who received her Master's of Fine Arts degree from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley in Edinburgh, Texas in spring of 2020. Del Castillo has exhibited throughout the Rio Grande Valley and other Texas cities like Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Dallas, Lubbock, and most recently in galleries in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York,
El Comalito.
Del Castillo's work consists of a series of self-portraits and portraits of others who she perceives as reflections of herself and as sources of human inspiration. Personal and emotional connections are often symbolically made to capture the essence of each of her subjects. Much of her work often deals with the appreciation of the female figure, growing up in the Rio Grande Valley and learning to live with anxiety.
Woo!
And so we welcome Josie.
That's you, girl.
That's me.
Well, welcome.
Well, just to get started, you know, what connection do you have to the label artist, and if you even use that label for yourself?
Yes. I think, like many of us, we started like, the chiquitos, we would draw, and I always took art classes. I always was passionate about it. And I think it was until college when I decided, like, I don't want to do anything else. Like, this is the pathway that I want to, take. This is the pathway that, like, I want to grow. I didn't see myself doing anything else. And, before that, this is just like my background, like, I never considered myself an artist, until I was taking, like, I took painting classes and I learned how to paint with oils, and I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this is my shit right here. And as I started getting more engaged with the community, putting my name out there, making work that actually meant something for me. And just the list goes on. That's when I was like, oh shit, like I am an artist. Because before we were like, oh yeah, you're an artist. Like, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But, obviously, like, I'm very, like, I was very insecure about my potential back then. So, being called an artist was something that I was like, no, that's too much. So I now, like, like, I guess maybe 5-7 years, into getting into this profession and really taking it seriously, like, I feel like, that's when I started calling myself an artist.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know that label can be super triggering because, like you said, like it's like, am I good enough? Am I not good enough?
Yeah.
When do I like get to identify? And that's always hard for folks. So thank you for that honesty.
And especially like when you're talking about personal stories, and maybe this is the next question for you about your subject matter. Can you talk a little bit about the paintings that you do, the subject matter, who you're painting?
Yeah. So a lot of my work focuses on self-portraits and portraits, like, in my artist statement, portraits of other people. And usually the portraits of other people are like...
Sorry.
Quiere platicar también.
Yes, quarantine life, girl. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No worries. So I paint the people that they choose to paint. I usually they're my friends, or people that I look up to into my community, or whether it's my partner, my family. So there has to be a connection. I try to do commissions, and people that I just didn't know, and it was just so hard for me, so challenging to make that connection into that painting. I feel like I have to know them, to an extent, and to paint them. So there has to be that personal connection with the people that I paint. So it's usually people from my community, and when I paint them, either I'm highlighting something from them, like the portrait of my mom, as an immigrant, or I use them as reflections of myself. Because sometimes I get tired of painting myself all the time. So I choose other people, and I'll use them and post them. But it's something that I'm usually going through, just to, like, because I don't want to be doing I could, but just gotta, like, paint a little diversity of, like, man, woman, just más diversidad, ¿verdad? And with my self-portraits, I feel like that has been, like, it has been, like, a self-discovery journey, like, at first I was just painting myself without thinking about it, First it was like a class assignment, do a self-portrait. But later on, like, I realized that it became more of that, and every time I do a self-portrait, like, I'm learning something about myself, or other people, like, relate to what I'm going through. So I find that beautiful, and like, I just don't get tired of painting myself. I'm always, there's something always to say.
Definitely. And as someone who also struggles with mental health, anxiety specifically, I really appreciate your work, because you're not afraid to go there especially with your self-portraits.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you for that. But also, like, with self-portraits, a friend and artist, Crystal Galindo, once shared with me that there's no better person to tell your story. So, like, there's nothing, like, you should be completely unapologetic about, doing self-portraits. And I've always found that really powerful. And then when I found your work on social media, like, it also kind of reinforced that. And I just, again, want to take the opportunity to say thank you for that as well.
Yes,
and I did have a follow-up question in terms of, like, your subject matter, especially with, like, your self-portraits. There's a lot of like, body positivity stuff. There's a lot of, like, unapologetic, this is my body. And I mean, it sounds like it feels like the work is very celebratory. And I wanted to ask about, like, how's your support system been around that, especially knowing that, like, as a woman of color, our bodies are often not celebrated culturally, as well as in representation, right? And at least in my family, like, I was taught, especially my sister, like, to cover up. And yours is just like, this is who I am. Like,
yeah.
Has your family always embraced not just the subject matter in your work, but, like, you being an artist unapologetically?
Yeah. I always say this. I'm very, very lucky to have a very supportive family. Like they drove me to cities, to Lubbock, which is like 10 hours away from where I live, just to go to a show. You know, they're always there. They're like my fam. I'm so grateful to have a very supportive family, and you know, it's. I hear this a lot from some of my peers or some of my friends who'd be like, you know, like sometimes people, others families, they get, you know, they discourage them from like following this, you know, this passion or this career, or you know, it's just a hobby, you know, like. So I'm very happy and grateful to have a very supportive family that's always been there for me, always believed in me. Desde chiquita, you know, like my mom would just like, you know, buy me like stuff to draw with. And it's funny because like that question that you asked, like when I had my MFA show last year, well, my that was my dad saw my nude work, and you know he later on my mom told me that, you know, okay, alguien le había preguntado a mi papá like qué piensa del trabajo de su hija, you know, and he was just like, oh, it's really good, you know. But the señora wanted to like, that's your daughter, you know, painting herself naked, like, you know, como que le quería hacer, que hacer pedo ahí, you know. So,
Yeah.
so it's just, my dad has always been supportive, and he's never said anything about, you know, about me painting myself the way I do. He just respects it and he supports it, and I'm grateful for that.
That's really
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yes. That's so beautiful, and mad like love to your dad, because that's, I mean, I didn't grow up with that experience, so like it's just beautiful to hear that your dad is so supportive. OMG. And to the other mujer trying to instigate shame.
Yeah.
Good thing that your dad, like, I mean, it's beautiful to have a father that is also not just supportive of your work, but that also instills like education, right, in our comunidad. So that's really beautiful too.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, yeah, like I guess going back to the whole, like, you know, the paintings that I do of myself naked or nude, you know, when I started, you know, I kind of will modify my body, like, oh no, I want to look a certain way and all this sort of, but it took me a lot to be like, this is the real me, you know, with all my imperfections, with all my cellulitis, with just, you know, extra, you know, curves. So I see it more like, it took me a while to accept the way I am, you know, and once you accept yourself, you start working on yourself, you start loving yourself. So because people ask me, people think that I'm very confident, people think that I sometimes do it for attention, like it's like nothing like that, you know. I do it because I'm working on myself, you know. It's my journey, it's my self-love journey, and I don't know when it's gonna end, you know.
Beautiful.
I don't know when I'm gonna be that boss ass bitch, you know. So, like, it's a journey, and you know, whether you know you support me or not, like, or like if the nudity offends you or not, like, cause I've, you know, some people, you know, have reacted in the internet, you know, like, ooh, you know, but whatever, you know, but I like it more when other women tell me like, thank you for making work that is real, that is sincere, that is honest, and that they feel represented.
Yes.
So because I was like, you know, I wish, like, I would see I always thought about like, I wish I looked like them. I wish I looked like them. I wish I looked like them. With, you know, especially social media right now. And now, like, they're moving like the plus size and like, you know, this thick models, but at the same time, they look like a very specific way, you know, like an hourglass figure, and I don't fit there. So I was like, I'm gonna paint myself because I don't see my body being represented at all, like, and this like social media stuff. So slowly throughout these past years, you know, I've seen like an improvement, and you know, like more like, ¿cómo se dice? Like, you know, I've seen more diversity in body representation, which I'm very happy to be part of that movement.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's empowering as a queer person, as a queer man. Like, it's empowering. So I can only imagine how empowering it is for like femme bodies and like femme and mujeres. So like, girl, yes, like you're amazing. You're amazing. As a woman of color, Josie, what are some of the challenges as well as some of the triumphs that you've experienced on your journey, either because I know that you did the BFA route and then the MFA, as well as you were already an artist from a young age. Like, can you talk a little bit about like how like being a woman of color, like what some of your biggest triumphs are, and then also like what are some of the challenges, whether that be the academic sector with your work being maybe too ethnic or too this or too that, or yeah, or just like the challenges of being in a male dominated field.
Mm-hmm. I guess the good things, good things primero. I mean, I've been able to really push myself exhibiting throughout the state of Texas, which I believe in goals. You know, set yourself goals, where short-term goals, long-term goals, and I will write them down. And like, there's something about writing things down that's just like you're manifesting it. You know, like setting your mind to. So exhibiting in Texas was my goal, and I feel like I'm getting there. You know, and then I said, okay. And then now, like national, I'm sorry. So, from the West Coast to the East Coast, right? LA to New York. So that to me has been one of my biggest accomplishments. Just getting my work out there. What else? Just, since I graduated, one of my challenges was like just, getting back into that routine of being productive, being in that zone, right? So I feel like a year later, like I'm finally getting back into my groove of just, painting and producing work that means something to me. And I think it's a challenging, because like some people work, some people have kids, some people like, there's just so many things going on that like I decided, obviously there's a lot of sacrifices that I've made. I don't make a lot of money, but I have the time to create work, which is what I want, and hopefully eventually it's going to pay off where I can sustain myself as a full-time artist. That's my goal, manifesting it. So
yes, put it out there. We're manifesting it for you también.
Sí, gracias. Challenges, I don't like, you know what, I always just felt dumb. I always felt dumb, like in undergrad and grad, because like all these like fancy words and like do your research, and I know research is important, right? I know that now, I know, but siempre me sentí like I always felt like out of place, like I wasn't smart enough. And I went to a university that's like 90% Hispanic, so culture, la cultura, and like our heritage and all this stuff was very common, concepts to work on. And actually before, like now, my more solid concepts about being a Mexican American and living in the border, that was something that I wasn't really focusing on until like one of my mentors was really pushing, he was really pushing la cultura, like you gotta be proud of your roots, you gotta be proud of like your backyard, like. And it was unfortunately he passed away, and I didn't really see how much like he was trying to say to us, to everybody, so that's when I started like focusing on la cultura and where we, our people, because I was trying like, oh, let me look at this European artist, and oh my God, they're so good. And it's just the academic, like very traditional work. But yeah, so I think he helped, like I'm just giving him like a little shout out, like that he helped me, and the professors, the community there, like very supportive to like push me to like like if that's what you want to do, because just solidify, how do you say solidify your concepts, because that's something that I struggle with in undergrad, and in grad school that's something when I refine them and be like, okay, I want to focus on my body, I want to focus on my culture, and I want to focus on mental health, which my anxiety, my work is very personal, but I think, if it's like, I don't know, there's something about making my work personal that it makes it stronger, like, it makes it like, ¿cómo se dice? Like, it's easier to communicate with the public, Yeah. Como que me entienden, y ellos también se sienten como que, sí te entiendo, like, so Yeah, I don't know if I went off topic or not.
No, that was beautiful. I think that yeah, I think that the personalization of your work makes it super relatable, you know, and
it's the honesty too.
And it's the honesty.
And I feel like in graduate schools, a lot of people get so stuck in the text, right?
Yeah.
They get stuck in the theory and in the language that a lot of the times the work is just flat and it just doesn't connect with people. And so when you open yourself up and you put your emotions and you emote in your work, like especially when you're painting brown people, like when they see themselves in that work, it's like it just opens up another world to you, right? And you connect with it, and I mean that's why you're so successful. I feel because those images weren't been done before. You know what I'm saying? You're putting something where there wasn't a space for it, and so that's why I love your work is because you're carving up a space in this time that people are going to be able to say, you know what, someone did this kind of work, and I should be able to do whatever I want to do as well. You know.
Definitely. And I was gonna también piggyback off of the comment that you made about like needing to find validation in European like artists or art history. And that's very real. And I think that como dice Abel, like you're carving out this space and you're changing art history because now
because you're making it,
yeah. So young artistas are going to be able to be like, you know what? I don't relate to these European paintings. I relate to Josie del Castillo, right? Like, and I think that there's something really powerful about that. So, thank you for being open and honest and sharing that because that's real.
Gracias. Sí. Oh, me chillé.
What? So para no chillar, I know now before I get all emotional too. So you have your studio where you get to work, and like, are you in terms of like pandemic? How has your artwork been impacted? Like, or have you been an introvert and pandemic has kind of just been like another day in the studio, you know?
Yeah, a mí sí me pegó duro la pandemia. Like, I was just so used to like, well, last year I was still a grad student and I was used to being in my studio, which is a shared space. And I was so used to like bouncing off that energy, that creative energy, like, si vos eres todo, vos you know, like, so I was like, you know, sucking up that energy from other people and then like, you know, like in a good way. So, you know, I moved out last year, like right when the pandemic started, to an apartment, and I decided to make up my own studio, which is this room. It was so hard for me to just sit down and paint. Like, it was so hard. Like, I could just, you know, but slowly I started like, you know, putting my easel, putting my table, putting some like images or like, so slowly but surely, like I've been, you know, sitting down here more comfortably. I'm trying my best to like, you know what, you don't need other people to get motivated. You got the stuff, you got the paint, you know, ponte pilas, you know, ponte trabajar. So like I want to be a full-time artist, then put in the work, you know. And when I was used to it, right, I was used to painting every day like in the studio, but now it's a different studio, my own studio. But I mean, I do miss, you know, just having the like studio visits or like, you know, platicando, you know, feeding off others' ideas or sharing ideas. Because it's good to have that feedback, because you know sometimes you just get zoned down in your own work. Like I you know, I'm always reaching out to my friends like, hey, what do you think about this? Should I do this? Should I do that? Or like my previous professors, like, ¿qué piensas? I need some feedback. I like getting feedback. I like receiving feedback, constructive criticism. So that's the only thing that I miss. But you know, slowly but surely, this studio is coming up. You know, I'm working with what I have. And
very cool.
Yeah, like, and that's when I did that little painting over here, the artist block.
Yes, you did that one in your current studio.
Yes, I did it because I was like, I need to paint. I just don't know what to paint, and you know, the whole artist block, like, it was bad last year. It's still bad, you know. But I would talk to other artists like, I just can't create anything. No me sale nada, and I consider myself a very emotional person, and I feed off of the energy around me. So last year, a lot of negativity, you know, in the world and the news and everything. I just couldn't. No me salía nada. So that painting was me trying to force myself out of my artist block. And yeah, I know it's super literal, like a little block over my head, kind of representing the artist block. But artist block, sorry, but we'll see, you know. Huh?
It's real.
Yeah, it's real. And a lot of artists and creatives, you know, writers, poets, you know, because I know a lot of people were struggling to be productive as well. And, you know, we see quotes like, don't worry about being productive. We're going through a fucking pandemic, you know? So, but yeah. I feel better now. And I'm slowly, you know, slowly but surely getting back into my creative zone, my productive zone.
Yeah. How have your gatitos and your plantitas? Because I know you have hella plantitas, and then I think you have one gato or two gatitos.
I have a cat. She's sometimes around here.
And you have a lot of plantitas in your studio, right?
I don't have them in my studio. I used to have them, but Kitty, she dropped it and she bit it, and I was so mad at her. I was like, never again having plants in my studio. So now all my plants are like in the living room, in the kitchen area, afuera también. But yeah, I love my plants, and I'm getting better at taking care of them. Like in the beginning, todos se me estaban muriendo, and I was like, no, te quiero, porque no me quieres a mí. So, yes, like they thrive and they're happy. I see myself as plants, you know, like the painting that I did about personal growth. You know, you start learning how to take care of them. You start learning how to take care of yourself, and you start growing, you know, and you start growing as well as a person. So I feel like I have that connection with plants, and I just me encantan todas.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. And there's always green in your paintings. Like all of your paintings have some sort of greenery in there. So I really appreciate that también in your plantitas. So, or including your plantitas in your paintings.
Yes.
As we're getting close to the end, if folks who are watching have any questions for Josie, please feel free to type them into the chat. And if Josie's comfortable answering, of course, we'll address those questions. But to kind of get to get to know you as a person a little bit more, Josie, like, do you have like, what's that one? Do you have like a really funny artist story or art story that happened to you, or is there like an artist pet peeve that you're like, oh yeah, I can't do that, in terms of like your practice or in terms of like engagement? Like for example, I always paint on a paper plate as my palette, and it drives him crazy because we have like artist painting palettes all over the house, and like I refuse to use them. And he hates it. Like, like, do you have like an artist story or an artist pet peeve or an artist practice that you follow?
No sé, I don't know. Like, I feel like it sounds like a very easy question, but I just no me sale nada. Like I'm like, no sé.
You're like, what?
I mean, I like to. I use a glass actually. Like I use glass from those picture frames from like Walmart. Like picture frames, and that's what I use as my painting palette, and I just love how it looks.
Yeah. Oh
I know it's toxic, but
same. And I'm looking at your painting palette, and girl, I just want to go and peel it. Oh my gosh, the satisfaction.
Yes. I look at that like, wait, can you see it?
So thick.
Yeah, I don't know. It's because no sé, like I don't. I unos little paint skins.
That's so funny.
I don't know. I just like I don't want to throw any like I don't want to talk shit about any other art movements or artists that I don't like. Okay, it's just to me, it's just really hard to understand conceptual art. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
like super modernized conceptual art that it's just like some random object, like and I'm just like, man, I know you're trying to like you're really putting a message out there, pero es que no sé, no conecto. But
yeah, and that's real, you know. That's and it's, I don't know that it's talking shit. I think that it's like a very real thing for me. I struggle with some of the abstract work, and for me, it's not so much that I'm struggling to decipher the message, but for me, it's more like, is it accessible to community? And if my mom doesn't understand it, because you need to be able to break down the formal, right, like color, composition, temperature, then it's made for a very specific audience. And I think that that's where I struggle with the work. And so, I mean, and I don't think that that's shade to those artists. I think that there needs to be um, maybe more education or more accessibility to the non-formal community, or the community that doesn't have, to break it open.
You know, like, I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, people can ask me, like, why do you, like, you see yourself doing something else other than portraiture, or, like, your work is, you know, I have friends tell me, like, your work is very literal, right? And I think from, like, coming from my community, like, I never, like, I studied, you know, art in college, but, like, I never went to museums growing up. My family never took me to, like, private art classes. Like, we're broke, you know? Yeah. So for me, my work being literal and my work being portraiture, and it's able to make you know, an easy message with the public, you know, that's why I care, because my family can understand it, my you know, my friends can understand it, or people in the community can understand it without, you know, having a fucking MFA or PhD, or, like, it's so conceptual, like, only the elitists are.
The most elite,
most elite can understand it, and I think, it's like making sense. No wonder I do. Because it's hard. You know, you have to have, if you don't have the knowledge about, like, all these, like, conceptual movement and the data and all these things, and, like, you're not gonna understand this type of work. So that's, you know, that's the reason why I like, maybe that's why I like being fucking literal. You know, so everybody can understand it. You know.
And representation matters.
Yeah.
Thing, I think, like, when you're talking about a brown body creating work, it's like, if you look through our history, you're not going to see it. And so we're putting and imposing our pictures and our images and our stories. We don't want no one else to tell it for us.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also important to say why you're doing the work that you're doing. It's because, guess what? It wasn't there, you know, and that's my reply to that. It's like you can't force something on someone to change their worldview. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you have to represent exactly what you're living, and if that's how you see it, then that's what it is. And the critique is gonna come, but that's also just words. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you connect with the people that are really taking the message, I think that's the end point for it.
Yeah.
So go, Josie, go. Go, Josie, go. So I think there was a question that had come up that folks were asking, or someone was asking, I apologize for not catching who it was, but about where can folks buy your prints?
Oh, yes. I have a link in my bio right now for Big Cartel, but I just sold out prints today, which I'm happy. But I look forward to, like, restocking this month, and, you know, so I hope they can be patient, and I hope, you know, they're following me so they can stay tuned whenever I make new prints. But I try to make them, like, you know, available every other month, so cuando puedo, pero I do want to make more prints for sure soon, because people have been asking me. Sí.
Yay, great.
Sí.
Great. Well, you can,
what
was that?
Oh, no, I don't know if there was another question.
Oh, so I think Arlene's? So Arlene is saying, screw those who think that the work is too didactic. So I think that, yes, Arlene, kind of agreeing with, you know, the abstract work or the conceptual work, and the conversation we're having about accessibility, and that oftentimes that work is not accessible. And also that oftentimes that work is appropriated, you know? So,
I hope they don't think that I'm bashing any, like, art.
No,
like,
no, I don't think it's about that at all. And I think, like I had shared before, like, I also struggle with that type of work personally. And it's not so much that I don't like the work, or that I'm critiquing or saying that artists who do this work are not important. I think that the important component needs to be with, how do we And I think that the bridge that's missing, or the bridge that needs to get built with the work, is how do we make this work accessible to the non-elite, you know? And I think that that's the part of the conversation that's missing. And I think that if there are artists who are doing conceptual work or who are doing abstract work, who are able to bridge that gap, especially artists of color, like I say, I'm like, let's do that, you know? So I don't think for folks who are watching, this is not shade. This is more a conversation about what part of the puzzle is missing.
Yeah, I agree. No más como like pláticas or like community engagement right there. We'll see, you know, because or public art even, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. So you can, for folks who are watching, you can catch some of Josie's work with us at El Comalito Collective at for Rooted Black and Brown Bodies with Plants. The opening reception is this Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, which makes that 8 p.m. Central time.
Yes.
You can find, yes, in Texas, for folks in Texas. You can find the link in our bio to register and get the Zoom link. Josie will be there along with some of the other artists. Are there any other projects or things that you'd like to share about before we say goodbye tonight, Josie?
Yes, well, I mentioned that, oh, not here, but my Instagram, sorry, that I'm the Changarreando Artist of the Month for Mexicarte, which is a Mexican and Mexican-American museum in Austin, Texas. And I'm very honored to, like, taking over the Instagram this month. So, you know, stay tuned. I'll be posting, like, my influences, my struggles, you know, like, more throughout the whole month of February. And I'm also gonna have my solo exhibition hopefully in June in San Antonio at Presa House Gallery, which is a really great gallery here in Texas as well. So yeah, I'm slowly getting back in the track. Yeah, I'm truchas, you know. So I'm happy to just get, you know, involved again, you know, because I feel like I was so burnt out of being, you know, bachelor's, master's, like nonstop, you know, that I needed, you know, the pandemic kind of made me realize, like, yo, like, andaba bien pilas, you gotta relax and, you know, take a long break and, you know, focus on yourself. And now, okay, yeah, ponte pilas, ponte trabajar, you know. But I think that's also like a thing that, you know, people in general, not just artists, but there's something about they glorify you being productive all the time, you know, even though you're all burnt out. And if you're taking a break, they see it as weakness or, you know, something. But sometimes you just gotta take care of yourself, man, because está cabrón a veces, you know, especially with mental health.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like I'm glad, you know, for you guys to invite me to this live artist talk. This is cool. I liked it.
Yay! And for folks who are watching también, remember that art is work. So for you all who are like, but it's just a hobby or it's just fun, or like, no, girl, art is work. So
Yes.
you know,
And
even
it's
though we
not just
love
work
it,
here, it's work here too. So
Yeah. Aquí también el corazón.
well, yeah, absolutely. Without this, and it's not.
no, for sure. And although we do love it as artists, like it's not something that is not labor, you know, it's absolutely labor. So thank you so much, Josie, for being with us today. We'll have the pleasure of seeing you twice this week. We'll also see you on Friday. And for those of you who are here on our page and don't follow Josie, give her a follow because her work is freaking ridiculous. And I mean that in the best ways. So thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you, Josie. Y hasta la próxima.
Bye.
Bye. Gracias. Thank you, guys.